Hey everyone, it's Alex, and I am here with my very overdue video for the winners of the 43rd Saturn Awards. The Saturn Awards winners came out nearly 2 months ago at the end of June, but during the summer when there's not a lot of awards stuff going on, I don't feel as pressured to get the videos out on time, unlike in the winter when there's one award show after another, and I feel the time crunching in on me to get the videos out as fast as I can. But better late than never in this case. Now, if you don't know, the Saturn Awards are an award show designed to honor certain genres of film and television, namely horror, science fiction, fantasy, action, and thriller. If you've never heard of the Saturn Awards, even though they've been around for many decades since the early 70s, then I wouldn't be surprised, because the Saturn Awards have never been broadcast on television, not on any of the big networks like CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, or the CW, or even smaller networks like MTV or VH1. I don't even think they do a YouTube live stream, which is a shame because apparently they do have nominees that show up, and there are pictures of winners posing with their trophies if you go on the internet. So hopefully in the future we'll actually get to see the ceremony someday, whether it be streaming on YouTube or on some TV network. So unlike other award shows, I can't necessarily talk about the ceremony itself and who gave the best speech and whether the host was funny and that kind of stuff. All I can do here is just give you the winners and whether or not I agree with those choices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the winners on my computer here, one by one, real quick, and then once that's done, I'm going to go back and analyze which winners I agree with and which ones I don't. So just give me a second here. Okay, so here are the winners for the 43rd Saturn Awards, starting off with the DVD categories. Best DVD or Blu-ray release, Tales of Halloween. Best DVD or Blu-ray television release, Hannibal: The Complete Series Collection. Best DVD or Blu-ray Special Edition release, Phantasm Remastered. Best DVD Blu-ray Classic Film release, Time After Time. Best DVD Blu-ray Collection, Frankenstein Complete Legacy Collection. Now onto the television winners. Best Young Actor or Actress on Television, Millie Bobby Brown, Stranger Things. Best Supporting Actor on Television, Ed Harris, Westworld. Best Supporting Actress on Television, Candice Patton, The Flash. Best Actor on Television, Andrew Lincoln, The Walking Dead. Best Actress on Television, Melissa Benoist, Supergirl. Best Guest Performer on Television, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, The Walking Dead. Best Presentation on Television, 11/22/63. Best Animated Series or Film on Television, Star Wars Rebels. Best New Media Television Series. There was a tie here between Luke Cage and Stranger Things. Best Superhero Television Series, Supergirl. Best Action or Thriller Television Series, Riverdale. Best Fantasy Television Series, Outlander. Best Horror Television Series, The Walking Dead. And Best Science Fiction Television Series, Westworld. Now onto the film winners. Best Costume Design, Colleen Atwood, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Best Film Editing, Michael Kahn, The BFG. Best Makeup, Monica Huppert and Joel Harlow, Star Trek Beyond. Best Music, Justin Hurwitz, La La Land. Best Production Design, Rick Carter and Robert Stromberg, The BFG. Best Special Effects, John Knoll, Mohen Leo, Hal Hickel, and Neil Corbould, Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Best Screenplay, Eric Heiserer, Arrival. Best Young Actor or Actress, Tom Holland, Captain America: Civil War. Best Supporting Actor, John Goodman, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Best Supporting Actress, Tilda Swinton, Doctor Strange. Best Actor, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. Best Actress, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Best Director, Gareth Edwards, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Best Animated Film, Finding Dory. Best International Film, The Handmaiden. Best Independent Film, La La Land. Best Comic Book Film, Doctor Strange. Best Action or Adventure Film, Hidden Figures. Best Fantasy Film, The Jungle Book. Best Horror Film, Don't Breathe. Best Thriller Film, 10 Cloverfield Lane. And finally, Best Science Fiction Film, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Now, before I analyze the winners, I just want to reveal what the special award winners were. Normally, I would have made a separate video about this, as I did last year, but this year, the Saturn Awards website, while they posted a list of the special awards winners, they didn't post a description about each winner and why they were receiving it. So I'm just going to run through these winners real quick. The Life Career Award went to Lee Majors. He, of course, is famous for starring in the TV show The $6 Million Man, and I believe at one time he was married to Farrah Fawcett. Just a fun fact there. The Visionary Award went to Akiva Goldsman. Interesting choice to say the least, because Akiva Goldsman, he's had probably some of the highest highs and lowest lows that you can experience in the film industry. He did win an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay for A Beautiful Mind, and well-deserved in my opinion. I love A Beautiful Mind. But he also wrote what many consider to be one of the absolute worst films of all time, Batman and Robin. I, to this day, have never seen Batman and Robin, but I'm willing to believe everything about it that's bad. I've seen many reviews of it, particularly the Nostalgia Critics review, where he infamously freaks out about the Bat credit card scene. The Filmmakers Showcase Award went to Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. They're a screenwriting duo, and I believe they're a married couple as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they wrote films like Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Jurassic World. So they're basically bringing back old franchises and giving them new life again. And they've been very successful because those films were not only a resurrection of old franchises, but they were critical and commercial successes as well. The Special Recognition Award went to Heavy Metal Magazine. Personally, that's a magazine I've never read, but I guess it must be a good one. And then finally, the Breakthrough Performance Award went to KJ Apa for Riverdale. I haven't seen Riverdale yet, but I hear it's an interesting show. It's basically a modern-day take on the Archie comics and all the classic Archie characters like Archie, Betty, Veronica, Jughead, and all those characters. Alright, now for an analysis of the actual winners. For the DVD and television categories, there's not really much I can analyze, because with most of these DVD categories, I haven't seen most of these movies. I did see The Lobster and The Man Who Knew Infinity in theaters. They're pretty good movies, but they're more matinee movies than like full-price movies. As for television, I've heard of most of these shows. Stranger Things and Westworld are big contenders at the Emmys, and I'll be talking about them in my next video about the Emmy nominations, but I haven't had a chance to watch them. I know I've talked about Stranger Things many times and how I keep saying I'm going to watch it eventually, and I really do mean that. Every time I plan to watch it, something else came up and I forgot about it. Westworld I haven't seen, but I've heard many great things about it. I know that one of the creators of it is Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan, and it's got a very big all-star cast. Game of Thrones, of course, even though I haven't really watched too much of it, I of course know what it is because it's just so prevalent in pop culture. And same thing with The Walking Dead. But other shows on here like Luke Cage, Daredevil, The Flash, Outlander, Bates Motel, Riverdale, Supergirl, American Horror Story, Roanoke, Star Wars Rebels. I've heard of those shows, but I've never really watched them. The only category I can really talk about from which I can judge the winner is Best Presentation on Television, which is basically Best TV Movie or Miniseries. 11/22/63 and The Night Manager would have been my picks here, those were fantastic. If either of them had won, I would have been happy, and 11/22/63 ended up winning. That's a great miniseries. It's based on a Stephen King novel where an English teacher goes back in time to stop the Kennedy assassination. If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you want to read the book, check that out too. It's really good. So that's really all I can say about television. Now, I can talk a lot about the film categories because most of these films I did see. So for Best Costume Design, out of these nominations, I'd say Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is the rightful winner. It did a very good job of capturing not only the 1920s, but also the wizarding style in the costumes. And it actually won the Oscar for Best Costume Design a couple months ago in a surprise win, too, because most people thought at the Oscars that Jackie or La La Land would win Best Costume Design, but this one pulled off a win here. For the other nominees, Doctor Strange and The Handmaiden I did not see. Alice Through the Looking Glass, the BFG, and Rogue One, they had okay costumes, but not stand out enough to win. For Best Film Editing, the BFG was an okay film. It's not one of Steven Spielberg's all-time greatest. It was decent, but I don't think the editing was its strongest point because there were several moments that really dragged, and I think the editing was part of that. So as a result, I think Arrival should have been the winner here because that was one of those films where it's more slow-paced than fast-paced. It's more similar to 2001: A Space Odyssey than, say, Star Wars. And it's one of those things where you need a lot of elements to work. Acting, writing, directing, editing, music. And the editing in Arrival was fantastic. I never felt bored once during Arrival, even though it's a more slow-paced film. Captain America Civil War I didn't see. The Jungle Book, Rogue One, 10 Cloverfield Lane, they had pretty good editing, but Arrival, that was my highest ranked film out of all these films nominated for Best Film Editing here. So that, and just the fact that it kept me entertained despite being a slow-paced film, that is enough for a win in my book. For Best Makeup, I'm so glad Star Trek Beyond won here. I couldn't believe that it lost at the Oscars to Suicide Squad because, frankly, in Suicide Squad, the makeup, while impressive in certain points, like with the prosthetics for Killer Croc, it was basically just face paint and tattoos, which I'm sure took a lot of effort to do, but in my opinion, that's not enough to win an Oscar for Best Makeup. And same here at the Saturn Awards, so I'm glad they recognized the Oscars there and gave it to Star Trek Beyond, because Star Trek Beyond had really fantastic makeup, and not just because it was all heavy prosthetics that made actors like Idris Elba look unrecognizable. It's for the fact that the makeup looked completely believable. You really felt that these actors had been transformed into these aliens that we'd never seen before. As for the other contenders, they had okay makeup, I guess, based on what I've seen. Fantastic Beasts and Rogue One, okay makeup, but not standout. Doctor Strange and X-Men Apocalypse, can't comment on that. Best Music, La La Land is the rightful winner, hands down. I don't think there was any question it would win that. Given that La La Land is a musical, it needed great music in order to work, not just singing and dancing, but also background instrumental music as well. And the instrumental music in La La Land is just fantastic. The other scores, Passengers and Rogue One, they were good. Passengers, in particular, was good but not quite memorable. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, it was good but not as great as other Harry Potter film scores. And John Williams' score for the BFG, okay, but not as most memorable. I can't comment on the Doctor Strange score. For Best Production Design, it's a tough call here because most of these films had fantastic production design. Even Passengers, although Passengers didn't get the greatest reviews, it certainly had very good looking sets. I'd say overall the BFG is a good winner here because it really, the sets they used, particularly in the Land of the Giants, looked fantastic, and they looked like real sets too and not something just CGI'd in during post-production. For Best Special Effects, pretty much a solid argument could have been made for any of these films winning. Rogue One had really fantastic effects, but I personally would have liked to have seen The Jungle Book win, like it did at the Oscars, because with The Jungle Book, Jon Favreau had to take a soundstage in Los Angeles from where he was filming the movie, and then in post-production insert a jungle environment and all the animals with Baloo, Bagheera, Shere Khan, Kaa, the wolves. All of those were digital creations. No real animals were used, for obvious safety reasons, but they looked fantastic, and they looked like as if they really were animals, and it looked as if it really was being filmed in a jungle. And it looked so great on the big screen that it just blew my mind, and it blew pretty much everyone else's mind of those who saw it. And so for that reason, The Jungle Book should have won. But this is one of those categories where pretty much any of these contenders had won. I don't think anyone would be angry. For Best Screenplay, this would have been a really tough choice for me if I were an actual Saturn Awards voter, because I would have been very torn here between Arrival and Hell or High Water, because those films were literally right next to each other in my list of the best films of 2016. However, because I liked Arrival just a little bit more than Hell or High Water, I'm happy for its win here. For Best Young Actor or Actress, Tom Holland, I've heard many great things about his performance in Captain America Civil War, but since I didn't see that movie, I can't comment on it. Although I know many people feel he's the best Spider-Man ever, even better than both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. I didn't see Hunt for the Wilderpeople, so I can't comment on Julian Dennison's performance. Ruby Barnhill, she was very good in the BFG. Louis McDougall, he was fantastic in A Monster Calls. That's a very serious film for a young kid to be the lead performer in, but he pulled it off magnificently. Neil Seddy was excellent in The Jungle Book. This was his feature film debut, and he was absolutely fantastic. But the real winner, in my opinion, who I feel should have won, was Anya Taylor-Joy for The Witch. This was easily one of the best lead actress performances of 2016. Easily. The way she makes you sympathize with her character and wonder what the hell is going to happen next just leaves you hooked in The Witch from beginning to end. And by the time the movie was over, I was like, whoa. And I know a lot of other people felt that way too. I know there are others who did not like The Witch at all and feel it's one of the worst horror movies ever, but I really loved it, and I think Anya Taylor-Joy has a bright future ahead of her. She already had a big role in M. Night Shyamalan's most recent film, Split, and she was really good in that movie too, and she's also going to be in the sequel to Split called Glass, so I can't wait to see her in that. For Best Supporting Actor, this was easily one of the best choices that they had in this whole ceremony. John Goodman absolutely deserved to win for his performance in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Oh my God. In 10 Cloverfield Lane, John Goodman, he keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time, because one minute he seems to be this kind, caring man who's trying to help these people during what might be an apocalyptic event, but then at another time he comes across as this really creepy guy who you wonder, did he kidnap Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Gallagher Jr. and lie to them about what's going on just for his own evil, sadistic purposes? Obviously, I'm not going to say what the actual truth is. You'll have to see the movie for yourself. But the way John Goodman kept me on my toes just made me fascinated at what his character would do next, even if it would end up scaring the bejesus out of me. And John Goodman's one of those actors who can pretty much do anything. He can do comedy, he can do drama. To this day, I have never seen John Goodman give a bad performance, ever. For Best Supporting Actress, since I didn't see Doctor Strange, I can't comment on Tilda Swinton winning. Margot Robbie, she was one of the best things about Suicide Squad, but the movie itself was just a gigantic mess. Kate McKinnon, I didn't see Ghostbusters, so I can't comment on Kate McKinnon. Same thing with Scarlett Johansson in Captain America Civil War and Bryce Dallas Howard in Gold. So that ultimately leaves me with Betty Buckley, who I thought was fantastic. Now, you might say, well, I can't truly judge this category if I've only seen 2 of these nominees, and to a certain extent you're right, but even if I had seen all the rest of these performances, I honestly don't know if anything could have topped my choice in Betty Buckley, but who knows. But either way, she was absolutely fantastic in Split, and she well deserved to be nominated here. For Best Actor, I'm sure a lot of people are very happy with Ryan Reynolds' win for Deadpool, but since I didn't see Deadpool, I can't comment. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Chris Pine win for Star Trek Beyond, because I thought this was the best performance he gave as Captain Kirk, and I feel that Star Trek Beyond is the best of all the new Star Trek movies. For Best Actress, there were a lot of great nominees here, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead was fantastic in 10 Cloverfield Lane. However, she probably would have been my second choice to win, because personally I feel the winner should have been Amy Adams for Arrival, because even though all the other elements of Arrival are important, like the directing, the writing, the editing, the music, this was a movie that rested pretty much entirely on Amy Adams' shoulders. And if she did not bring her A game to this movie, it would have just collapsed miserably. But she was absolutely fantastic. Everything she did, you were interested in what she was doing, and you were curious as to what would happen next thanks to her. And I honestly think this is one of Amy Adams' greatest performances in her whole career. And how she didn't get an Oscar nomination for this, that is one of those shocking things that I will never understand. Because everything you would want in an Oscar-nominated performance is in her performance in Arrival. You know, and Arrival is easily one of the best science fiction films of this decade. And I feel that in 50 years, film schools will be studying this movie for all sorts of things, including Amy Adams' performance. For Best Director, as good as the directing was in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, I don't think Gareth Edwards was the rightful winner here. I personally would have liked to have seen it gone to Jon Favreau for The Jungle Book, or Denis Villeneuve for Arrival. If either of those two would have won, I would have been happy. If I had to vote myself, I'd probably pick Denis Villeneuve, mainly because Arrival, out of all these films, was the highest on my best films of 2016 list from the films nominated here. But Denis Villeneuve, he had to put all this together and make a movie that was slower in pace than most other science fiction films, still be emotionally powerful and keep you interested, and he pulled it off magnificently. And Jon Favreau, like I said before, he had to take the task of creating an entirely artificial jungle in a soundstage during post-production and make it look believable, and he pulled that off magnificently as well. As for Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, if I had to rank it among the best Star Wars films, I'd probably put it right in the middle. You know, not the best Star Wars movie, but not the worst one either. I certainly like it a lot more than Chris Stuckman, who gave it a B and said it's the new Phantom Menace because of how overrated it is in his opinion. And yet he gave comedies like Rough Night, one of the worst comedies I have ever seen, a B as well. But moving on from Chris Stuckman, for Best Animated Film, I really liked Finding Dory a lot, even though I don't feel Pixar's sequels are as good as their originals. So as a result, I think Zootopia should have won, because to me, that was the best animated film of 2016. And it's actually quite a very relevant film, maybe even more now than when it came out last year. Because Zootopia, while it's very fun and entertaining as you would expect a Disney animated film to be, it also boldly tackles some very serious issues that most animated films don't tackle, or if they do tackle, they tackle them more subtly rather than directly. And Zootopia really goes in depth in exploring issues like racism and sexism. Zootopia provides a lot of food for thought for both kids and adults. It makes you think a lot about what's going on in the real world and how we can fix the problems that are in the real world and how we should fix them. But it's still an entertaining film, one that kids and adults alike can enjoy, and it deserves all the success that it got. And so I would have liked to have seen it win here as well. For Best International Film, the only one of these I saw was Elle, so I can't really comment on the rest of these. I have heard a lot about The Handmaiden. It's a South Korean film that adapted, I think, an Irish novel, and I believe it's directed by the same director who directed Old Boy and Stoker. For Best Independent Film, La La Land is the rightful winner here, my favorite film of 2016. Best Comic Book Film, the only one I saw was Suicide Squad, and I only watched that because it was nominated for an Oscar for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and it actually won, much to my great anger. So I can't judge this category. I'm sure many people are happy about Doctor Strange's win, but I have a feeling many people would also have preferred to see either Captain America Civil War or Deadpool win. For Best Action or Adventure Film, I can see how some people might wonder why Hidden Figures won this, given that there's not really a lot of action in it. I guess there is certainly a sense of adventure, since it's about the space program at NASA and the 3 African American women who played a big role in it in the early 1960s, particularly in the mission to send John Glenn into orbit. Some might feel Hacksaw Ridge should have won because there's the big battle in the second half of the film, but I'm okay with Hidden Figures winning here because even though Hacksaw Ridge was good, I actually liked Hidden Figures better. Because Hacksaw Ridge, while it had a strong second half, its first half had some problems, namely some sappy romantic dialogue that sent the film into cheesy territory until it got to the battle sequences. Whereas Hidden Figures, I had no problems with that movie, loved every minute of it. For Best Fantasy Film, The Jungle Book is easily the rightful winner here, and it's one of the rare times that I feel the live-action remake is better than the animated original. This one was probably about 30 to 40 minutes longer than the animated original, and as a result it allowed for some more character development. For Best Horror Film, I didn't see Don't Breathe, although I've heard a lot of good things about it. Personally, I would have liked to have seen The Witch win, because even though I'm not the biggest fan of horror films, I was gobsmacked by The Witch. I was like, whoa, by the time the movie was over. It's one of those films that after you watch it, it's very hard to forget what you saw, and it ended up being my number 4 best film of 2016. For Best Thriller Film, 10 Cloverfield Lane is a very good choice. That probably would have been my second place choice. Personally, I would have picked Hell or High Water to win because that was my number 6 best film of 2016. One of the best thriller films of this decade, easily. I have 0 flaws with that film. But 10 Cloverfield Lane would have been my second choice. Split was really good. The Accountant, I didn't love it as much as others. It was okay. The Girl on the Train, I think, is underrated, but I don't think it was good enough to win here. Jason Bourne, I didn't see. And The Shallows, not the greatest movie ever, but definitely a lot better than I thought it would be. I thought it would be just another generic shark attack movie that was going to be a Jaws ripoff, and for the most part it wasn't. And Blake Lively actually surprised me and gave a good performance, because having been on shows like Gossip Girl, I wasn't sure if she would be capable for a movie like this, and I feared she might have been miscast, but here she shows that she has a lot of range, so hopefully we'll see more from her like this in the future, away from the whole Gossip Girl persona. And then finally, for Best Science Fiction Film, I had a feeling Rogue One: A Star Wars Story would win because the Saturn Awards love Star Wars. The Force Awakens pretty much swept the awards last year. Maybe won a little too many in my opinion, but some of the awards it did deserve to win. Personally, I would have picked Arrival because that film just floored me when I watched it. And the other films on here, like Midnight Special and Star Trek Beyond. They were really good. Passengers, it was alright in some areas, but there were some big problems with it. And Independence Day Resurgence, that was a guilty pleasure. I didn't absolutely hate it like some others, but it's definitely nowhere near as good as the original. So those are the winners for the Saturn Awards. Not too many winners here that would get me really, really angry. But what did you think of the Saturn Awards winners? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Let me know in the comment section below. And please subscribe to my channel so you can get more of my new videos as soon as they're uploaded. And I will be back soon with my video on the Emmy Awards nominations. Until next time, see you guys later. Bye.